holla, it's Jessica from ogling.com back here to show you how I made my much wanted wall art map. I got the wood from my dad for free. He had to clean out this little section in his backyard that he hadn't touched in about over 10 years. And in that pile were a few pieces of very weathered fencing. Once I saw this fencing, I was totally inspired. The month prior, I saw this piece at World Market for $80. I knew I had to rescue it and clean it up and use nothing but scrap wood for this project. So I only paid for hardware, which came out to about $4. The fencing itself was about 3 inches wide by a 1/4 inch thick. The final project is approximately 2 feet by 30 1/4 inch. I can't really tell you why my crazy butt decided 30 1/4 inches instead of just 30 inches, but that's what happened. So I cut 7 of these weathered wood fencing pieces at 30 1/4 inch, and then I used just a straight edge to draw out the line, and then I took it to the saw to cut them out quickly. I found a scrap piece of plywood and I cut it to my desired length, which was 30 by 21 inches. After you have your 7 cuts, you need to sand. And here my dad is sanding it. He's using a 220 grit. He's sanding both sides and just going very lightly. He's just smoothing everything out. And this will also help your glue to adhere to your other wood better. Don't forget to always clean after you sand. So clean and then arrange your 7 pieces of wood once you have them to your aesthetic that you enjoy. Start with the center piece and then work your way to each side. So we're just using Gorilla Wood glue and spreading it on there. We did half of it, placed a heavy wood on top of it. Then we went ahead and did the other half and then placed another wood on top of it and then clamped it down to the table so it would add pressure and dry overnight. Now don't forget, right after you're done with gluing this, you want to move the sides and straighten out your sides before you clamp it down to dry. This is the back side of the map. You can see how the fencing hangs off the edge of the scrap plywood. I found 2x1 scrap pieces of wood and cut them so I can frame out the plywood. I did this so when I hang the map on my wall, it creates depth. I then used Gorilla Wood glue to glue the pieces down on the edge of the back of the frame, and I did use weight to hold it down so when it dried together and solid. I purchased some D-rings from a local hardware store. They're only a few bucks. I measured about 6 inches down, both on the left and right side from the top of the frame. Used a puncher to start off my screws and then just screwed them in. Using 18 gauge wire, wire cutters, and needle nose pliers, I started to wire the D-rings. It's actually pretty easy. You just want to pull it through, make sure you have a tail, pull it very tightly, wind it around, then using the wire cutters, snip it off, and then using your needle nose pliers, you want to tuck in that wire that's sticking out so it doesn't poke or scratch the walls. Then you're gonna repeat it for the next side. You're gonna pull it all the way across, kind of taut, and leaving a tail, snip it off with your wire cutters, and then repeat. You're gonna put it through the D-ring, twist it, snip it off, tighten it, and there you go. It took me a while to find a map that I was comfortable with. A lot of them were just the continental, and I wanted all 50 states, plus some of them were too detailed on the edge of the United States, some of them weren't detailed enough. So once you find a map that you like, print it out, copy it, whatever you have to do, blow it up to the size you need it, and then you need to cut out all 50 states. So once you do that, you're going to have to position them, then probably reposition them. Make sure you step away, looking at it, so that it's all good. Once you get it all perfect and how you like it, then you're going to start taping it down. All I used was double-sided tape, and I just used a tiny bit to keep it in place. And note, for the East Coast, there's a lot of little states. I actually kept them together as one puzzle piece essentially, because cutting them too small, I probably would have lost them, or it just would have been way too hard. So I kept 2 bulks of them together, so you might want to consider that. So I started from Texas, worked my way up into each coast. I did that so that I wouldn't end up with like a tweaked United States. So I definitely would consider doing that, and you'll see once you start taping it down, they fit together like way more nice than when they're just sitting there loosely. I'm just taking this really small painting bowl that I have and a little paintbrush with a small tip on there. This is just white acrylic paint that you can get at any craft store. Make sure you're not putting too much on your paintbrush, but also make sure you don't put too much in your bowl because it will dry out by the time you get all the way around and through with your states. So just do a little bit of white at a time, pour it as you go. And all I'm doing is putting a little bit on my brush, making a line, tracing on the outside of the United States. You're not going to do the states quite yet. It's really easy to just do the outline and then go state by state, and I'll show you in a minute. Mind your arm and your hands. If you touch the white paint and then you touch another piece of the art, you might end up getting like white on the wood that you don't want there. I did that a few times, so just keep that in mind. And if you're thinking that it would be easier to do this first before you cut out the states, or not even cut out the states, I will show you that it's probably easier to do it this way, but again, if you want to do it the other way, more power to you. Make sure you go all the way around and don't forget about Hawaii and Alaska. Now for the states. We're going back to Cali. To Cali. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you're just going to take off the state and then you're going to trace all the lines like you did with the outside of the United States. And you'll notice that if you do trace all the lines, it does create the state that you removed. So at this point, it is also good when you remove a state, if you notice that a line that you should have already drawn is not thick enough or just kind of skipped or anything like that, go ahead and like just thicken that up right now so you don't forget about it. Again, mind your arm and your hands so you don't end up with paint in places that you don't want. So once you do this, you're gonna want to go to the next state that touches the one that you previously removed. So you don't want to just go and skip around. You kind of want to have some sort of order here, and this is just going to help you to do less lines, not get confused as you go. Here is what I want to show you. When I clumped the states together, how you kind of have to lift them up and draw your imaginary line. And these are really small states, so it's kind of easy to imagine the line. You're going to see the paper gets stuck right here because the paint dried with the paper on it. After you peel that up, you're going to make your imaginary line, and you can see how that would kind of be confusing if you did that for all 50 states. You might come out with a disproportionate United States and it might look a little tweaked, but it's easier to do it for the smaller states. And you'll see after I finished New York, I did skip to Maine. It just made it easier because I can just draw one line to finish off Maine. Then I went ahead and right below Vermont did the horizontal lines first, and then I went through and did the vertical lines and pulled up any paper that kind of got stuck. I love LA. We love it. Well, we do love it. My husband and I are from LA, so I just took red acrylic paint and painted a heart right where LA should be. I always want to know how people hang up their wall art, and this is how I did mine. I used a drywall anchor and I screwed into the drywall anchor and then just hung the wire from the screw. 80 bucks or like $4. Yeah, I'm gonna take the pride of doing it myself, plus the 95% in savings of using scrap wood and leftover paint, plus the sentimental value of the wood coming from my parents' backyard in Cali when I'm in Colorado. And if you are looking for a shiny piece of art, go ahead and hit it with a few coats of lacquer and you'll be good. So I hope this inspired you to get going on your projects. God bless. Till next time.